Well, the former and current defense secretary is making news. General Jim Mattis, who resigned December 2018 over President Trump's Syria policy, broke his silence in an interview with The Atlantic. Mattis said that the president is a threat to the Constitution and that, quote, Donald Trump is the first president in my lifetime who does not try to unite the people, the American people, and doesn't even pretend to try. Instead, he tries to divide us.
Well, that was after the current Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, said that he did not agree with the president's desire to deploy active troops to respond to the violent protest. Take a listen to this.
The option to use active duty forces in a law enforcement role should only be used as a matter of last resort and only in the most urgent and dire of situations. We are not in one of those situations now. I do not support invoking the Insurrection Act.
Well, as you can imagine, that probably didn't sit well with the president. To help us sort all this out is Republican Congressman from New York, Zeldin, a lieutenant colonel in the Army, and he was deployed in Iraq and is now in the Army Reserves. Thank you so much for being here with us.
It's great to be with you.
Hey, Congressman, you are well familiar with chain of command. The president said something the other day, and then I would have assumed if the Secretary of Defense didn't agree with it, he would have done it privately. What do you make of this, for lack of a better word, public rebuke of the president's policy?
It's bad. So the president is the commander in chief, and it's one thing if you're told to carry out an illegal order. There are protections that exist, whether you could be a private, you could be a second lieutenant. As you go down that chain of command, when your superiors are giving you orders that are illegal, that's different. In this particular case, the president would be making a decision to utilize the Insurrection Act. The Secretary of Defense may not agree. What he could do is say, Mr. President, I recommend that you don't use it. Mr. President, I strongly recommend that you don't use the Insurrection Act, and here's why. And that's in a private conversation. But this is a decision that, once evoked, this is a legal use of authority. And the question that I would pose for anyone questioning it is, how much looting, burning, physical attacking would you sign off on? We have 200 injured NYPD just in New York City. How much of our cities all across the country have to get destroyed before you decide that it's appropriate? The president might not have the same standard as Secretary Esper does, but it's Donald Trump who's the commander in chief. And for him, he might decide that we need to establish law and order before we see more get destroyed. And that's a rational position to have.
Hey, Congressman, let me switch gears for a second. I want to play you an exchange between Lindsey Graham and Rod Rosenstein, who was testifying before the Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday. Take a listen.
The point is, the whole concept that the campaign was colluding with the Russians, there was no there in August 2017. Do you agree with that general statement or not?
I agree with that general statement.
I don't think that this can be understated. He is saying that there was no there, and that he wouldn't have signed the memo that sort of started the Mueller report knowing what he knows now. Congressman, you know what and I don't know why I'm still shocked when I say things like this, but why is there no coverage of this? This is the acting attorney general says that it didn't happen, and yet you don't hear a peep about it.
Yeah, so that statement, that interaction you just played, was not being played live on CNN and MSNBC, even though these networks and others spent years chasing down this narrative based off of anonymous sources to allege otherwise with regards to all different kinds of facts that are coming out now, whether it's the FISA abuse, whether it's the Michael Flynn case. I remember doing an interview with Erin Burnett on CNN where she's trying to lecture me that Peter Strzok had nothing to do with anything other than the Hillary Clinton email probe, including the Michael Flynn case. I mean, she was trying to lecture and mock and make faces. There's a duty, we believe, you and I would believe, to correct the record at all. After you spend years dumbing down your audience, if journalism is not dead, to at least be playing that exchange that you just showed, to be showing that live and to be covering that, but it's a totally different dynamic because their business model, they would just completely collapse if they signed on for accountability.
Not only did they not play it live, they don't. From everything I've seen, they don't even acknowledge it happened. They play selective clips at the beginning when he was being questioned by Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois, a Democrat. But when he starts absolving President Trump, it's like, oh, turn the channel. We got to find something else. Congressman, thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts on both of these important subjects. Continue to stay well.
Thank you both.
All right. Well, when we return, our series, Blocked and Banned, social media censorship of the right, continues. Snapchat is now joining the other platforms and censoring President Trump. Turning Point USA's Charlie Kirk, one of the president's staunchest defenders, has a lot to say about that. And we're going to ask Professor Alan Dershowitz if tech companies can win a legal challenge to President Trump's executive order preventing online censorship.